All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a video where we're going to take a look at some different areas of U.S. history and government. So we got a couple objectives today. We're going to look at the overview of our government, and we're going to look at parts of the federal government. So the top layer of government, which has the most power, is the federal government. That's we'll see the president, Congress, and the Supreme Court. Next level, we have the state government. That's where here in New York, we have the Governor Cuomo, who is in charge of New York State as far as the executive. And then local government in Nassau County, you have Laura Curran, and that is just dealing with local issues in Nassau County. But the federal government is supreme or has the most power if there is a conflict between any layer of government. And that is usually decided by the Supreme Court. It's also part of the Constitution, which we'll look at later on in this unit. It is called the Supremacy Clause, which is why we say the federal government is supreme. So the U.S. Constitution are the rules and laws of the U.S. It basically outlines the powers of the federal government, its limitations, and what's left over to the states and people. The Constitution was created in 1787 in Philadelphia. See a little bust there of George Washington and the other founding fathers, and there were 55 delegates of the colonies. So out of tens of thousands of people, it was 55 delegates, mostly wealthy aristocrats, which we'll get into in another unit. So there are main sections of the Constitution, or 7 of them. The first section of the Constitution deals with the legislative branch. Then the executive branch is in Article 2, followed by the judicial branch. So our 3 branches of government. Issues with regards to states are in the 4th article, followed by how to amend or change the Constitution in the 5th article. And the idea that the federal government has more power than the states, that it is supreme, is in the 6th article. And how to ratify or pass the Constitution is in the 7th. Again, the Constitution lays out our 3 branches of government in the federal level or layer. And we have the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. And in this diagram, we're trying to show that they balance each other. So in the legislative branch, you have 2 houses. It's bicameral. You have the House of Representatives, where we currently have 435 members, and the Senate, where each state gets 2. So there are 100 senators. To be a member of Congress or the legislative branch, all right, particularly in the House, we could start there. You have to be of 25 years of age, a U.S. resident for 7 years. You serve 2-year terms, and you have to be a resident of that district. The number of representatives that a state sends is based on the population. So therefore, every 10 years, the Constitution says we have to take a census to know how many people live in a state. Once you have that figured out, you determine the number of representatives each state has, and then they are sent to Congress in the House of Representatives, so in the chamber to the left, right? We said it's bicameral. In the other chamber, in the Senate, things are a little bit different. Each state gets 2 representatives regardless of the population. So currently we have 50 states. Times 2, that gives us 100 senators today. Senators serve for 6-year terms. They have to be at least 30 years of age and have been a U.S. resident for 9 years. Some of the main powers of the legislative branch are to pass laws, to spend and tax, to declare war on other nations, as well as to approve nominations as well as treaties from the executive branch, where the president resides. Speaking of the executive branch, it is housed by the president, the vice president, and upwards of 15 different executive departments. These executives or cabinet members help advise the president. Now, the president, in order to be one, has to be at least 35 years old, a naturalized citizen, meaning they were born in the U.S., a resident for 14 years in the event they were to move, and they're allowed to serve a max of 2 4-year terms or a total of 8 years. Okay, so some of the powers of the president are to enforce laws, conduct diplomacy with other nations, issue executive orders, also issuing of pardons. The last branch of government is the judicial branch, dealing with the court systems. In the federal court, there are some basic court systems: district courts, courts of appeal, and the highest court, which most of us are familiar with, is the Supreme Court, sometimes known as the highest court in the federal system. There are 9 justices who will look at different cases by using the U.S. Constitution to determine the legality of issues, and those rulings apply to the total or all of the states, citizens, corporations within those states. Thanks for coming, and we'll catch you very soon.